Unwritten Love Letter. Written by Yoon. Read by Arashi. You should probably think about getting some sleep. That's an order, actually, from Hubert. Thank you for the concern. I will be sure to convey my gratitude to Hubert later as well. Don't forget, he's really worried about you, you know? Is he now? Usually he finds any occasion to criticize me. As expected, the fool's fallen asleep at his paperwork, or collapsed, more like it, out of sheer exhaustion. And all of this after I sent along orders for him to get some sleep. Honestly, must a man do everything himself? To drag myself out of my own bed and through camp at this ghastly hour, half-dressed, shirt buttons undone, all because I am entirely too aware that Ferdinand von Eyre cannot sleep even when ordered to. Well, perhaps it would have meant more if I had delivered the order, firm suggestion, myself. Perhaps he would have listened. But no, Ferdinand is ever stubborn, ever striving to do the work of 10 men, leaving the one, true Ferdinand, hidden in there struggling under the tremendous weight of it all. It cannot be helped, then. I will have to take more of him under my shoulder as we make our way to the end of this war. If only he knew how much I'd already taken on for his sake. I dare not tell him. The idea of Ferdinand beholden to me is somehow insufferable. Let him think, for now, that he can do everything on his own. He need not know I am here watching his every move to ensure he isn't plunging headlong into flimsy, foolhardy territory. How many times I have pulled Ferdinand from disaster, only now unable to get him to do something as childishly simple as sleep. My lower lid twitches beneath my hair as I consider my failing. Various documents litter his desk like dead leaves during horsebrow moon. Hardened droplets of errant wax stud the wooden tabletop. At the head of the chaos sits Ferdinand, head lying nestled across his crossed-out arms over the table. His breaths are soft, just barely audible above the night quiet of the camp. Slow, drawn out. The first measures of peace he's gotten in, 2 days from my estimations? I cannot keep my eyes on him at all hours, but the last my little bird sang to me, Ferdinand had gone at least one full night without proper sleep. Distasteful. Dark circles have settled beneath his eyes, providing a bruised bed for his golden-spun lashes. It is those that ultimately draw me closer, even though I have stared at them for more time than I care to admit. Whether he knows it or not, it is a blessing that my penchant for sustained eye contact means I have all the excuse to look at them directly without fear of being caught out. Remembering myself, I set down the cup of tea on the table, far enough out of his reach should he flail himself awake in a panic. The mind is an ugly place. Even past his irresponsible smile and brilliant eyes, there is many rooted darkness that I confess I have longed to see. Ferdinand von Eyre, the one and the very same, has disposed of his abhorrent wretch of a father with more fervour than I could have thought possible. So many wrongs, against Adrestia, against Her Majesty, against Ferdinand himself, and therefore against me, righted with one bardic swing. Of course, such an action, however necessary, brings with it a pain few understand. Uncertainty, bitten fingernails, bitten lips, sunken eyes, sunken thoughts, nightmares, the final gasping breaths and terrified eyes looping endlessly through one's mind once the silence and dark of night allow them in, the black blood and red muscle and white bone on the floor, the precious, petty life fading from the eyes of the one you once trusted, the one who helped bring you into the world, the one who, perhaps, once upon a time, even loved you. I killed my father too. I understand. Softly, I slip the deerskin gloves from my hands, setting them down beside the tea. There is a ratty but decent enough blanket strewn carelessly across the camp bed. I take it up. From the frayed fibers, his scent greets me, immediate and strong. I allow myself a moment to close my eyes and breathe it in, to breathe him in, all wild blossoms and citrus and summer sweat, fragrant and heated, and as close to a home as I can ever imagine. Profane, really, after a lifetime of immediate knowledge to Her Majesty's unique performance. I prefer this unguarded, clumsy, and, dare I say it, nostalgic scent. Memories of a lifetime I've never lived, but make me feel at ease nonetheless. It cannot be helped. I really am someone I do not recognize when Ferdinand is involved. Or perhaps it is more accurate to say that this has always been who I am, beneath the carefully crafted facade. Leave it to this clumsy fool to smash such walls down with his usual careless vigor, entirely unintended, as is his way. The blanket, sufficiently warmed between my hands, I drape ever so gently, as a mist on the morning, over the arch of his shoulders and back. He does not stir, deep in a dreamless universe far from Fodland, far from me. Good. Even a few hours of rest will be a vast improvement over the absolute nothing he's gotten in recent nights. As silently as I can, I smooth out the bed sheets and straighten up the pillows, cold though they are from lack of use. Various books he keeps lying out I close, and settle into roughly the same places, lest he become disorganized looking for them, only in neat piles rather than the chaos maelstrom he considers an organization method. The scattering of armor on the floor will have to wait. That would be much too loud. He shifts in his chair, so subtly that only the creak of wood gives him away at first. A gentle murmur bubbles up in his throat. His brows rise at the center, so sharply they send a small cascade of his hair down his face. And so it begins. Even in sleep, the ghosts must haunt him, as their flesh-bound forms have not tormented the boy enough in life. No, not a boy. Not any more. Not after such an act. And yet, there is still childish fat in his cheeks, and an innocence in his countenance, a jarring and somber reminder that he has only now come into the unrelenting, merciless realities of life, so recently that they have not yet painted their anguish into his youth. For as quickly as I had to grow up, it strikes me suddenly that I am not much older than Ferdinand in terms of actual years. In another life, unburdened by strife, what kind of men would we be? Would we recognize those men, or even like them? He stirs again. My hand moves quicker than my brain at this hour, settling onto his blanket-draped figure between his tense shoulder blades. Slowly, I let my fingers slide towards the nape of his neck, warmed and fragrant from the feather-down ends of his hair. I do not stray too far, keeping my slow petting to the center of his shoulders until I feel him relax into my touch. "That's it," I whisper, an orneric spirit to grace the domain of his dreams. "Sleep." After a shuddering sigh, his breathing returns to that easy pace and his brows unknot. My breathing, too, settles. I did not realize how uneven it had become in my quest to bring him comfort without rousing him. But I must leave before he truly wakes and before the sun rises. Even now, the gray dawn creeps beneath the tent. Knowing the ease of gossip spread in this camp, it would be best for me if no one saw me leave at this hour. Making sure the coast is clear, I open the tent flap, squinting at the lightning sky overhead. I spare Ferdinand a last glance. He will be fine. It will take time and tears, and hands worried bloody with training, but he is too good of heart and too strong to falter here. I know it. I know him. I leave. It is only once I have settled in my own bed a half-hour later that I realize my mistake. My gloves, left neatly with the cup of tea, a signature to round out what would have been my anonymous, unwritten love letter. "Hubert?" His voice is rasped at sleep, but as welcome as the first blooms of spring. He lets himself in before I can protest, not that I would have, and holds up the very gloves I lament in his hands. They tremble, near imperceptibly. "You forgot these," he says meekly. "They are yours, are they not?" "Yes, so they are, and so I have." He pauses a moment, drowsiness clouded in his eyes like a sunset, before setting them onto the desk beside my cot. His teeth fumble at his lower lip, followed ever so briefly by the red tip of his tongue. "Thank you, Hubert. I promised I would. That is, you do not need to worry." "Yes, I believe I do," I drawl, turning to my side and propping myself up on my elbow. Even in the low light, I can see his cheeks brighten. The glitter in his eyes, unable to be conquered by sleepless nights, warms me on my sleepless nights, devoid of dreams, but for wholly separate reasons. But his gaze does not meet mine. He remains a safe distance from me, rubbing his forefinger and thumb together as he visibly tries to find the words. Rather than allowing him to struggle endlessly, I pluck the edge of my blanket and raise it high. "Come." "Hubert?" "Hush. Keep your voice down. You'll wake the entire row." He looks back, as if expecting Edelgard or even St. Ceres herself to sweep into the tent and who knows what. Realizing his fears are ridiculous, he sets one knee onto the cot, generating an extended, screeching creak that forces one of my eyes shut. "Sorry," he whispers, lowering down into the space I've made for him beside me. "Sorry," he whispers again, as he accidentally drives his elbow into my chest, attempting to join me beneath the blanket. "Sorry," he whispers once more as his nose brushes mine when he finally settles in. "Ferdinand." I need not say anything more. The warmth in my voice is enough, I think. "Sorry," he blurts automatically at the chiding, before an emphatic shake of his head sends amber strands this way and that. "I think I've had smaller dogs as a child. I mean, yes, Hubert." But he is endearing. I cannot deny it, for as much as I've rolled my eyes, groaned aloud, and have been short with him in the past, there is no such sweetness in his face that begs for honeyed words rather than the bitter ones he's accustomed to. After all, he has done so much deserving of praise, and yet I do not think he hears often enough how much he is valued. No, the poor fool does not even know how rare a jewel he is, overachieving his entire life, striving for excellence beyond measure, only for others to misunderstand his unwavering confidence as born from spoiled luxury and unending, unembellished heaps of praise, when the fact that he was born from a complete dearth thereof, never being truly seen, the all too human desire to be needed, wanted, loved. I move the hair from his cheek and rest my palm there, letting his sun-bright heat radiate into my skin. I search his eyes, his lips, for words that he needs to hear, and settle upon them at last. You've done so well, Ferdinand. As ever, you've exceeded my expectations. I knew you would. There is a flicker of confusion in his brows that softens into a measure of understanding. He says nothing. He does not need to. Rest now, I tell him, my words close to his parted lips. I am here. He moves closer, encircling my shoulders with his arms. He buries his face into my shoulder, my neck, and his lips trace the softest words against the ends of my hair. Thank you. Sleep, I whisper, until he does so. I do not let him go, not even as the sun rises, not even as the camp comes to life around us, not even as I am summoned. Some duties, I surmise, take precedence over the rest. And wherever would our empire be without Ferdinand?